symbols of loyalty and vigilance at the edge of mortality. In ancient myth, dogs were associated with gods of death and the underworld, Anubis in Egypt, Cerberus at the gates of Hades, even Garmr in Norse prophecy. The black dog of European folklore thus fit into a broader archetypal pattern, the hound as guide, Aus as threshold guardian, as a reminder that every road eventually leads to the same destination. Consider, too, the sensory world of those who told these tales. Nights in medieval Europe were not softened by street lamps or the hum of distant traffic, but were absolute in their darkness, pierced only by torchlight and the silver wash of the moon. To walk alone across the countryside after sunset was to step into a world alive with sounds, the rustle of trees, the distant cry of owls, the whisper of wind across stones. In such a landscape, a sudden shape emerging from fog, a pair of eyes reflecting light, would not only terrify but confirm every whispered tale. The scent of damp earth, the heavy stillness of the air, the uncanny silence after a growl were details that stitched themselves into memory, strengthening the myth with every retelling. The black dog did not remain static. It adapted, evolved, and spread. In England, some said it was a demon bound to ancient pagan shrines, haunting the ruins after the church had tried to consecrate them. In Ireland, its connection to the Fae linked it to otherworldly courts, a creature straddling not only life and death but also human and inhuman realms. In France, its appearances often preceded tragedies, drownings, storms, unexplained deaths. Not explained, the black dog carried the weight of inevitability. It was not simply a beast to be fought or avoided, but an omen to be read. Even the church, which often dismissed folklore as superstition, could not fully erase the terror of the black dog. Sermons warned against heeding omens, yet parishioners still left offerings at crossroads or whispered prayers when the cry of a dog echoed at night. For them, faith and fear intertwined. Could the hound be a devil's trick, or was it an angel of death disguised in shadows? Some priests recorded accounts with grim resignation, noting that, though the beast's presence could not be proven, the deaths that followed its sightings were undeniable. This duality, the mixture of skepticism and awe, terror and reverence, cemented the black dog as more than just a cryptid of folklore. It was a ritual of storytelling, a living myth that held communities together through shared fear. When someone claimed to have seen the beast, neighbors listened with hushed breaths, not because they expected to see it themselves, but because the story reminded them that death was always near. The black dog was not just a tale of the countryside. It was a mirror for the human condition, a reminder carved into the night that every step taken in life carried the echo of mortality. And so, across centuries, the black dog remained its form shifting, its eyes always burning, its presence marking the threshold between one world and the next. To glimpse it was to stand at the edge of eternity, staring into the crimson gaze of fate itself. The black dog did not remain confined to whispers and distant tales. It revealed itself in moments so vivid, so terrifying, that they burned into history as events rather than rumors. Perhaps the most famous is the storm of 1577 in the English town of Bungay. On a Sunday morning, as lightning ripped across the sky and thunder rolled like celestial drums, parishioners gathered in St. Mary's Church. Suddenly, through the roar of the tempest, a massive black hound burst through the doors. Witnesses claimed its eyes flamed like molten coals, its breath steaming as though pulled from the furnace of hell itself. The beast barreled down the aisle, striking down men and women, leaving 2 dead and others writhing on the floor. In its wake, scorch marks seared into the wooden doors, marks that, according to legend, remained as silent testimony to the encounter. That very same day, across the countryside in Blithburg, another church reported the same monstrous apparition. Again, lightning struck. Again the hound appeared, and again it left behind claw marks and death. To skeptics, it was lightning and coincidence. To believers, it was proof of an omen older and darker than any sermon could quell. But Bungay and Blithburg were not isolated. Reports spread across Norfolk and Suffolk. Travelers swore that a giant black hound followed them at night, padding softly behind, never attacking but never leaving. A merchant wrote of seeing glowing eyes on a cliff, watching him as he prayed for safe passage across the sea. A farmer told of finding his sheep slaughtered in silence. No sign of wolves or men, only paw prints larger than his hand burned into the ground. A gravedigger spoke of hearing heavy breathing as he worked alone by lantern light, only to see nothing but shadows moving along the wall of the churchyard. Each tale bore a chilling consistency: the immense size, the crimson glow of eyes, the suffocating dread that settled over those who encountered it. Ireland, too, had its share of revelations. The Swer city was said to appear on lonely hills, a hound of the other world, whose howl foretold the death of those who heard it. One story told of a warrior walking home from battle, hearing the growl of a dog behind him. When he turned, he saw a beast as tall as his chest, its eyes glowing green rather than red. Terrified, he fled, but within days he was dead, felled not by sword but by sickness. His kin whispered that the Susidage had chosen him, marking him for death as surely as any mortal blow. The tales carried on into later centuries, with travelers in Ireland reporting that the sound of paws in the dark, though unseen, often preceded the death of a family member. In Brittany, France, the Chien Noir haunted winding forest paths. A 17th century priest wrote in his diary of encountering a massive dog on a road near Rennes. At first he believed it belonged to a hunter, but as it drew near, he saw that its form was indistinct, as though made of smoke and shadow. It passed him without sound, and he felt an icy chill seize his chest. Days later, he fell ill, convinced that the dog had been no natural creature. Local lore insisted that the Chien Noir was a psychopomp, a guide of souls who appeared not to kill but to escort. If you saw it, death was not far behind. These stories were not confined to peasant gossip. Chronicles, sermons, and pamphlets carried them into the written record. Clerics tried to explain the appearances as manifestations of the devil, testing the faithful with fear. Others believed the dog was a remnant of pre-Christian deities, lingering in spectral form after being banished by the cross. Antiquarians and folklorists of the 19th century collected the tales, noting the consistency of details across centuries and regions. Always the hound appeared at thresholds, doorways, bridges, crossroads, graveyards, liminal spaces where one world ended and another began. The fear was not only of the beast itself, but of what followed it. Deaths, storms, fires, and tragedies were tied to its presence. A fisherman from Norfolk recounted how he and his crew saw glowing eyes on the shore as they set out at dawn. That day, a sudden storm capsized their boat, killing half the men. Survivors swore that the black dog had foretold the disaster. In another account, a noble family claimed to have been stalked by a phantom hound before a sudden fire destroyed their manor. To the people who lived these events, the black dog was no mere myth. It was real, an agent of fate stalking their steps. Perhaps most chilling were the encounters where the hound did nothing at all, where it appeared and simply observed. Travelers described walking alone at night and feeling a presence beside them, shaped darker than the surrounding darkness, kept pace silently. The weight of its eyes pressed down, but it neither attacked nor vanished. It walked with them until they reached their destination, then disappeared into the shadows. Weeks later, illness or misfortune claimed them. To be chosen by the black dog was to be marked not for immediate violence, but for inevitable destiny. The lore spread, adapting with time. In the 19th century, the black dog appeared in ballads and ghost stories told around hearths to children as warnings not to wander at night. In the 20th, the myth fused with psychology. Winston Churchill famously described his bouts of depression as the black dog, capturing the same sense of looming, inescapable dread. In modern times, reports still surface drivers on lonely roads at night, glimpse glowing eyes in their headlights before swerving to avoid a beast that vanishes into mist. Paranormal investigators collect testimonies of paw prints left in empty spaces, of cameras malfunctioning when the hound appears, of people dreaming of the beast before tragedies strike. Discovery, then, is not only about events preserved in dusty chronicles, but about the persistence of the hound in the collective mind. It refuses to fade. Each new account stitches another thread into its tapestry. Was it an ancient god, a demon, a symbol, or a figment of fear conjured by human minds that no death is always near? The line blurs. What remains constant is that the black dog has never been a passive tale. It has been experienced, recorded, feared, and remembered. To discover the hound is not merely to learn of folklore, it is to step into the liminal, to hear paws echoing in the dark, and to feel the gaze of death fall upon you. The black dog is most terrifying not in rumor or record, but in the moment when it reveals itself directly, when one finds themselves alone in the stillness of night and suddenly realizes that something vast and unseen is pacing in the shadows. Confrontation with this apparition has always carried an unmistakable aura of finality, as though one were no longer a traveler, but already a condemned soul walking toward judgment. Consider the account of a lone soldier returning from war, trudging across the windswept moors of East Anglia in the 17th century. The moon hung low, swollen and pale, casting a silver veil over the heather. The soldier heard footsteps behind him, heavy but deliberate, the measured cadence of paws pressing into earth. He turned and saw nothing but mist, yet the sound persisted. Then, out of the fog, a shape began to coalesce first eyes. Twin coals glowing crimson, then the outline of a body immense and blacker than the surrounding dark. The soldier froze, every instinct torn between flight and faith. The beast's breath steamed in the air, and the odor of burning and rot pressed against his lungs. He clutched the crucifix around his neck and whispered a prayer. The hound did not charge. It stood still, eyes fixed upon him, until at last it lowered its head and passed by, its form brushing close enough for him to feel the chill of its presence seep into his bones. Days later, the soldier fell dead in his sleep. Such encounters were not isolated. In village after village, men and women told of direct confrontations with the hound that left their sanity cracked and their bodies marked. A traveler in Norfolk recounted being followed for miles along a desolate road. The beast never more than a few paces behind. Each time he turned, it stopped. Each time he walked, it resumed its pursuit. He swore that when he finally broke into a sprint, the hound let out a low growl that vibrated through the air like thunder rolling from the abyss. He reached his home drenched in sweat, but when he looked back, the dog was gone. Within the month, his brother drowned in a river near their farm. The climax of the black dog legend often lies in its sudden materialization in sacred or communal places, as if to demonstrate that no walls of stone or faith can bar its approach. At Bungay and Blythburgh, the hound not only appeared but left behind its scorching claw marks on church doors, a visible wound on holy ground. Eyewitnesses claimed its form filled the nave, lightning illuminating its body as though it were carved from smoke and flame. When it passed through the congregation, screams echoed against the walls, and those struck down were left twisted and lifeless, as if death had reached out with invisible hands. The congregation's confrontation was not with a beast of flesh, something that seemed to embody the inevitability of death itself breaching their sanctuary. Descriptions of the hound in confrontation are sensory overloads designed to sear into memory. Witnesses spoke of the size taller than a man, its back broad as a table, its fur absorbed light swallowing the glow of torches until only its eyes remained visible. Those eyes were never passive. They did not merely glow, but seared, as if looking into one's soul and weighing its worth. The sound was equally dreadful. Not the bark of a living dog, but a deep growl that rumbled like a subterranean earthquake, vibrating through stone and marrow alike. Some claimed the growl could not be heard with the ears, but was felt directly in the chest, as though the heart itself recognized the voice of its approaching silence. In one French account, a priest described the climax of his encounter on a lonely road near Brittany. He had set out with a lantern, reciting psalms to steady himself, when the dog appeared at the edge of the light. At first he thought it a hunter's hound, but when the lantern flame flared against its face, he saw eyes that burned without reflection, light emanating from within. He raised his cross, demanding the beast depart in the name of God. The hound advanced without sound, and the priest felt the ground beneath him grow cold. He fell to his knees, praying as the dog passed beside him, brushing his robe with a frost that lingered until dawn. Days later, he was struck ill, and his final entry in his journal was the memory of those eyes that never blinked. Perhaps the most terrifying element of confrontation is the ambiguity of its outcome. The hound does not always attack, yet those who meet its gaze often find themselves touched by misfortune or death soon after. To see it is to be chosen, marked by an omen that cannot be outrun. It does not strike like a predator seeking prey, but hovers like fate, making itself known so that the soul is prepared for its departure. In this way, confrontation with the black dog is less a battle and more a ritualer recognition between mortal and mythic forces that destiny has already spoken. Yet not all who confront it fall silent in fear. Some sought to challenge it, to prove its falsity. A skeptic, a young scholar in Ireland, once heard tales of the Tuair Sid and declared them superstition. Determined to expose the myth, he walked to a known haunted hill at midnight, carrying only a lantern and a book of prayers. For hours he saw nothing, until a sudden stillness settled, and the air grew thick with cold. From the crest of the hill, two eyes appeared, distant but fixed, gleaming with a cold green light. The scholar raised his voice, proclaiming his disbelief. The eyes advanced, slow and steady, until the shape of a massive hound emerged from the mist. The lantern flickered and died. In the darkness, he felt hot breath on his face, smelled sulfur, and heard the scrape of claws around him. He collapsed, trembling, and when dawn broke, his hair had turned white. Though he lived many years afterward, he never spoke again of what he saw. The confrontation had broken not his body, but his certainty. Climaxes such as these reveal the dual terror of the black dog. It is not only the beast's physicality's eyes, its breath, its presence that unravels human courage, but the psychological truth it embodies, the reminder that mortality cannot be denied. To stand before the black dog is to confront not just a mythic beast, but the reality of one's own end, given form and teeth and eyes that burn in the dark. And so, across centuries, the climax repeats, on church floors, at crossroads, in graveyards, on lonely moors. A figure appears where the veil is thin. Red or green eyes cut through the fog. Breath cold as the grave hangs in the air. Damn. And whether the beast lunges or passes silently by, the one who has seen it knows their fate is sealed. Death has made itself visible, and the confrontation is not merely with a hound, but with destiny itself. To understand the black dog is to move beyond the immediacy of fear, beyond the chilling growl in the fog or the glowing eyes at midnight, and to ask why such a figure persists across centuries and cultures. Why do so many societies, scattered across geography and time, conjure the vision of a spectral hound at the threshold of death? The answer lies in the archetypal power of dogs themselves, guardians, guides, and watchers who have always stood at the liminal edges of human life. Dogs were humanity's first companions, protectors of hearth and hunter's ally. But in nearly every culture, they also belong to death. In Egypt, the god Anubis took the form of a jackal, guiding the souls of the dead through the underworld. In Greece, Cerberus, the monstrous three-headed hound, stood guard at the gates of Hades, ensuring that none could escape their fate. In Norse myth, Garmr howled before Ragnarok, chained until the world's end, a beast whose cry announced apocalypse. Even in Aztec cosmology, the yellow dog Xolotl guided souls across the waters of death. The canine figure recurs because it embodies a paradoxy as both loyal companion and guardian of thresholds, both comforter and harbinger of endings. The black dog of European folklore inherits this ancient lineage, becoming the dark shadow of our oldest relationship with the animal world. But the European manifestation takes on a particular nuance. The black dog is not merely guardian, but omen. Its presence rarely helps or protects. Instead, it signals, marks, warns. To see it is to know death is near. This transformation from guardian to harbinger reflects a society obsessed with the inevitability of mortality. Medieval and early modern Europe was a world haunted by plague, famine, war, and sudden calamity. Death was not distant but ever-present, unpredictable, and unexplained. The black dog emerged as the symbol of that dread unpredictability, something immense, incomprehensible, walking beside you unseen until it revealed itself in the moment you were most vulnerable. The archetypal significance deepens when we consider the black dog as a liminal guardian. Folklore consistently places it at crossroads, churchyards, and ruined sites of transition. Thresholds between one state of being and another. The crossroads is where choices meet and destinies diverge. The churchyard is where life gives way to burial. Ruins mark the collapse of one order into another. The hound's presence at such places is not coincidental. It signifies the confrontation of human beings with the unknown, the spaces where certainty dissolves and the abyss stares back. The black dog thus becomes not just a herald of physical death, but a reminder of psychological thresholds, the points at which the human mind brushes against forces it cannot rationalize. This psychological reading has persisted into modern times. Winston Churchill famously referred to his bouts of depression as the black dog, a phrase that has since become a widespread metaphor for melancholy. The imagery is telling. Depression is not an attack that comes and goes, but a presence that follows, that waits at the edges, that cannot be dispelled by force. Just as the folklore hound paces behind travelers on lonely roads, depression lurks behind daily life, visible only when its weight presses too heavily. Here the myth becomes metaphor, showing how deeply it has been woven into human consciousness. The black dog is not only a beast of death, but a shadow of the psyche, a symbol of those inner forces that drag us toward despair. From another angle, the black dog can be seen as a societal mechanism for giving form to fear. Communities needed a way to articulate the sense of impending doom that hovered over them. The death of a neighbor, the collapse of a harvest, the outbreak of plague. Such events felt random, unexplainable. But when framed within the presence of the hound, fate acquired a face. The community could say, it was the black dog. Death had sent its messenger. In this way, the myth was not only terrifying, but strangely comforting. It implied order within chaos, a ritual structure to mortality. Death was no longer invisible, but preceded by a sign, an omen that allowed people.
And I don't know, like I told y'all, I watch Supernatural. That's my shit. The show, like the series Supernatural. I don't know how many of y'all ever seen that shit, but if y'all watch it then, or if y'all watched it before, then you'll understand what I mean. But yeah, like watching that though, it's not kind of hard to believe. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's like, you know, I mean, it's like a guard dog for the devil. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, yo, yeah.
Finally finished and I should.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. All I touch is the pencil and it just burns.
Wash that off your thing. Y'all done? Y'all stay outside. And my TV ain't getting turned on, none of that. So,
Mommy already said we can't.
yeah, well, figure it out.
To prepare. The symbolic logic extends further into the realm of ritual. Every culture, knowingly or not, creates patterns to manage the terror of mortality. The black dog's legend functioned as a kind of living ritual. Its stories were told by firelight, its sightings whispered in hushed tones, its appearance woven into the fabric of communal fear. To share the story was to participate in a rite, a collective acknowledgement of death's inevitability. This ritual dimension transformed the black dog from mere folklore into an instrument of cultural survival. There is also a deeper esoteric interpretation. Some occult traditions view the black dog as a psychopompa spiritual guide who escorts souls from one plane to another. While its appearance is terrifying, its purpose is not inherently malevolent. It does not kill, it accompanies. The dread comes from recognizing what its company means, that the journey is near. In this sense, the black dog resembles the angel of death in Abrahamic traditions, whose role is not to punish, but to fulfill. The hound's eyes, burning with otherworldly fire, might then be read not as the flames of hell, but as torches lighting the way through the darkness. To the occult mind, the confrontation.
Nah, I don't believe that. Nah, his eyes burning because his eyes come from hell.
With the black dog is not a curse, but an initiation the moment one becomes aware of mortality as an ever-present companion.
Yeah, his eyes is red, glowing in the dark to light the way. Get the fuck out of here. Hell no. His eyes red because his eyes taking you down there, back down there where the fuck he came from. That's why his fucking eyes red.
But why a dog, specifically black? The color black itself holds rich symbolic weight. It is the color of night, of mystery, of the unknown. In alchemy, Negredo, the blackening, is the first stage of transformation, the death of old forms before rebirth can occur. The black dog, then, is not only a herald of physical death, but of transformation, of the dissolution necessary before new life or new consciousness can arise. Void, its very darkness is fertile, a void in which endings and beginnings are intertwined. Seen this way, the black dog is not purely destructive, but archetypally creative, embodying the cycle of death and rebirth. In modern society, the black dog retains its power precisely because it transcends folklore. It appears in literature, film, and music as a cipher for everything from depression to supernatural dread. Cryptid hunters catalog sightings, while ghost stories thrive on its menacing form. Yet beneath these modern expressions lies the same primal function, the need to externalize death, to make visible the invisible, to confront the inevitability of endings with a shape we can imagine. The persistence of the black dog shows how myth endures, not because it is factually true, but because it is psychologically necessary. Ultimately, the black dog is less about the afterlife and more about awareness. To see it is to be reminded violently of mortality's proximity. It is a confrontation not with claws and teeth, but with the truth we spend our lives avoiding, that our steps are always shadowed, our breaths always numbered, our paths always moving toward a threshold. Whether we interpret the black dog as demon, guide, metaphor, or omen, its power lies in forcing us to acknowledge that reality. In this interpretation, the black dog becomes more than a folkloric beast. It is an archetype of death's presence in human life, a mirror in which we see our own fragility. It is a reminder that our ancestors, too, felt the dread of mortality and sought to tame it by giving it form. And perhaps, just perhaps, when we dream of the hound or glimpse glowing eyes in the dark, what we are truly seeing is not an external monster, but the reflection of our own deepest knowledge, that death has always walked with us, patient, silent, waiting for the moment to reveal itself. The black dog always departs as it arrives, suddenly, silently, leaving behind only the echo of its presence and the weight of what it means. Those who encounter it speak of the silence that follows, a silence not of peace, but of inevitability, as if the world itself has paused to acknowledge the message delivered. And what is that message? That death is no stranger, walks beside us always, cloaked in shadow, revealed only when we are brave or foolish enough to turn our heads and glimpse it. The legend endures not because of what the hound does, but because of what it signifies. It is never merely an animal, never only a ghost. It is a reminder that mortality is not hidden in the distance, but hovers at the threshold of every moment. In England, they still point to the scorched marks on the church doors at Bungay and Blithburgh, claiming the hound left its signature for all to see. In Ireland, tales of the Twee Citied still whisper across lonely hills, its howl echoing not from the throat of a beast, but from the deep caverns of human memory. In France, the Chien Noir is still invoked in stories told to children who wander too far into the woods. And yet, beyond these folkloric remnants, the black dog has leaped into modern imagination. It appears in literature as a Gothic symbol, in art as an omen, in psychology as a metaphor for the shadows of the mind. Its eyes glow not only in churchyards, but in the depths of human despair, its paws pacing the inner corridors of our thoughts. What makes the black dog so haunting is its ambiguity. It does not always attack. Sometimes it simply watches. Sometimes it escorts. Sometimes it howls once and vanishes, leaving nothing but dread in its wake. This ambiguity is more terrifying than any violence, because it mirrors the uncertainty of death itself. We do not know when or how our end will come. We only know that it will. The black dog embodies that uncertainty, that silent certainty hidden within unpredictability. To encounter it is to confront the unsolvable riddle of existence. How to live, knowing that the shadow of death is never far away. Consider the symbolism of its eyes. Crimson or green, burning or glowing, they are always the first detail remembered. Eyes are the windows of the soul, and when the black dog looks into us, it is as if the abyss itself peers back. Those who meet its gaze feel marked, chosen, as though a tally has been made, and their name recorded in a ledger invisible to all but the beast. Yet the eyes are also lights in darkness, guiding torches across the void. Might they not be merciful? Might the hound not be announcing, "I will walk with you, you will not cross alone"? In this reading, the black dog is not executioner, but companion. somber guide whose terrifying form masks a gentler truth that death does not abandon us, but meets us halfway. Still, the fear remains. For even if the black dog is a guide, its presence is unavoidable proof that the journey must soon be taken. Human beings cling to illusions of control, yet the appearance of the hound strips them bare. A farmer working his fields, a priest on his lonely road, a traveler crossing the moor, none of them invited it. None could command it, yet all felt its gaze. This lack of control is what terrifies. It is the collapse of agency, the reminder that no matter how hard we work, pray, or plan, fate has its own timetable. And the hound enforces it without fail. The ending of the black dog's story is not a conclusion but a return, a cycle repeating itself across generations. The hound disappears into fog only to emerge in another place, another time, before another trembling witness. Each tale.
Okay, so I guess we pretty much get the gist, I guess. Now what I will say, like I said, it's not unbelievable if you can understand the spiritual realm. If you understand spiritual realm, then you know it's pretty much believable. Have I ever seen the black dog or anything such as that sort? Or like have any of my peoples? I don't think so. I can't say that. I can't say that we had any of those experiences. Now, when it comes down to demons, however, that's another story. I've definitely seen demons before, and I've definitely seen them enter and exit people, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So like I said, if you understand that this is spiritually, then you understand that this myth, omen, it could be some truth behind it. You know what I mean? It could definitely be some truth behind it. So yeah, man, I you know that was just, it was just pondering on me, and you know, I was like, man, hey man, you know, I want to see, and I really kind of want to dive deeper, because I felt like he just kind of was saying the same thing over and over again, but I don't speak fucking Chinese or Japanese, so. Oh, this